indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Kaczynski. Here.
Conrad Wilbur.
Here.
Richie.
Here.
Heroes.
Here.
Don.
He's doing the short version.
Sorry, you're just getting on lunch.
That's all right.
Soroka. Here.
Here. All right. Item 3, reading consideration of the minutes of the regular meeting and closed session held on November 13th. Any suggested changes or comments to those minutes as presented?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I saw one on page 3, under section 5, in reference to Councilmember Bennett.
Oh, yeah, it says 2023.
Yes, thank you.
I think it was just, later on, you had in 2024, Derek, but it says that for 1-year term ending November 2023.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll make that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. With that change, are there any other comments? All right, the meetings will be approved as amended. I'm going to go off script here for a minute, if you'll allow me. We have a special guest with us here today, Conrad Koski, who I'd like to give a mayoral proclamation to and recognize him from the council. Conrad was one of the first citizen members of the board I got to meet when I first was elected to city council in 2001. It was just like yesterday. We survived Y2K, ran for office. There you go. Conrad has served on the Public Safety Retirement Board as a citizen member since 2001 through this year. And prior to that, he was saying he also spent some time on our Parks and Harbor Committee before he was evicted from that committee for suggesting that they raise the prices for some of the classes that they had. So we found a great spot for him over at the pension board. And I will say that ever since I learned a lot about municipal finance, working with Conrad, I learned a lot about our retirement systems. And obviously, he provided not just service to our city, but he was the chief financial officer and the chief executive officer of First of Michigan, and also worked for the CPA firm of Patrick O'Hara. And most impressively is that at the time he retired from our pension board, we had a 112% funded pension. So thank you, Conrad, for me individually. Thank you on behalf of the city for your service. It's extraordinary to have a citizen willingly spend so much time with us on council on these boards. So thank you. And I know, Joe, you're on the board. If you want to say a few words or.
And love.
Love too, yeah.
What took his place? When I first got on 10 years ago, that was my first committee assignment, and I was always pretty good with numbers, but with Conrad, he looked at them a different way, and 2 and 2 always equals 6. And you can see by the 112% increase, when we were in there, we started, I think it was like 800,000 or whatever, but it's just gone up every year, and it's been a real pleasure to work with them. Learned a lot from them. Thank you.
Bob, anything you good?
Well, I didn't get to know Conrad very much, but I'd like to congratulate you very much for your time and support on our committee. It's been great. You and Kevin Broderick, I guess, the 2 older, wiser guys. So we lose one, but we still have Kevin.
So let me present you with this proclamation, sir, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'll get it.
Okay.
Perfect.
Do I say a few things, Conrad?
One more.
Yeah.
One more. Here.
I can sign this. Chair.
Oh, okay, you get it. Okay, good.
It's been like it's 23 years or however long it's been. You know, hopefully I added a little bit, but working, I consider this working for the city. Couldn't ask for a better group of people. And with without a doubt, this is the best run city in all the points. Thanks to all you folks and a couple here. But I do have an ulterior motive for participating in this committee. I'm not sure if you know it. My dad and my grandfather were both Detroit police. My dad was a patrolman out of number 13. You know where that one is? It was at the Wayne State campus. And my grandfather was a detective in the police department for many years. So, you know, I worked my ass off to keep that police fund up there where it should be. And hopefully they're happy with it too. But I want to thank all of you for your support. Thank you for this. I don't deserve it, but hopefully you found a replacement that will fill my shoes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll do this, Conrad, I'll tell you, love working with you. All right, item 4, public hearing to consider an updated master plan for the city. Shane, I'll turn that to you.
We have Jane Dixon here from McKenna, and I think she's followed up, I think, with the charge from the last meeting. Council asked that that meeting be adjourned, allow the opportunity to add, again, additional comments that were received in that period where it was under public review. Those have been added and are now part of the master plan, and it's before City Council for approval. Jane, anything else you want to add?
Yes, as you stated, there is an additional appendix starting on page 166 that details all of the comments received during that public comment period. And then an additional column that has discussion of whether the plan already addressed the comment or the comment wasn't an applicable change. Just kind of explaining how these were reviewed and thought about in a very considerate way. So I want to thank again the public for all of their input and their comments and thoughtful review of this when it was in its draft stage. I'm happy to take any additional questions, but I will state none of the text has changed since the last time you saw this in November.
Any questions? Well,
I can make a comment, and I'll just say, as I have said, Jane, I think that you and your firm have done a great job on this product. That it gives us a real kind of a road forward, path forward here for us. A lot of recommendations. I'm particularly interested in the zoning plan, the recommendations that you put in there, and look forward to implementing this. This is going to be a document that I'm going to have to help me guide votes and ideas in the future. So thank you for this, and very good job.
Yes, Shane and Beth and Lev and I recently attended the Michigan Municipal League Conference. And one of the first days, they had a big screen up at the general session. And they had all these buzzwords. And one of the main words was thriving. When I think of whole communities, this document, as I went through it, reminded me of the nutshell of the conference. We want our communities to thrive. We want council to thrive, and we want our businesses to thrive. And what that looks like, and this is all mutual, our residents and businesses, they want to be heard. And when they come to the table, they want to be heard. Just as we ask for support, they want support. People that live in a community, they want to be able to socialize in that community. They want to be involved. We want to live in a community that is safe and secure. And this document says all of that. We want to be able to eat, play, and have entertainment in that community that we live in. We want to be able to share. And as Councilman Wood stated, this is a blueprint. This is something that will hold us accountable and responsible. And I see it as Bible. You know, it is a roadmap. So I thank you for all the hard work that went into this. And one of the bigger words, remember, Shane, was the word fun. People want to have fun in their community. So as I step into 2024, I have this commitment to myself, is that everything I do and everything that I hope the city is engaged in, we can have more events on the Hill because our residents want to see that. So thank you, and we have some work to do.
I'll just add, I want to thank Lev and some of the other council members who requested to put in that appendix. I think, like moving from Sierra's very eloquent comments, I'll have the here, which is to say, for a record for history, this is really helpful to know what the range of opinions are. And what I really loved about this was how, in the second part, we actually responded to some of the questions and see, okay, your concern was this, and here's where we think we answered this. And that, I think that back and forth is just a really good model for us to consider as we continue to work on public engagement about the city. So thank you for putting together an exemplary plan, and I think really just showing us a great public engagement process over the last couple of years. Thanks.
Anybody else? I'll echo all the comments. Fantastic document. Like to have it in one book, as Neil said, we start at the bottom. Before we vote on it, I will urge cross-reference. The one thing that always strikes me about that struck me about this whole process, I should say, is over and over people said they want restaurants, they want entertainment, and they want retail. Yet people shop at Amazon, go across town for meals, and don't go to entertaining things here. If you want it, we have to support it, because a lot of small business owners put a lot out there on the line. They might mortgage their homes, they might have other businesses. And so I think it's incumbent upon us, and those points, to support what we say we want, and to shop local, entertain ourselves local, and eat local. So, thank you. Right. Anybody in the public have any comments on the master plan? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Do I have a motion?
Louis, my motion is to adopt the draft master plan dated November 30th, 2023, as the city's formal master plan.
Support?
Support.
All right, might as well do roll call, Derek. This one?
Councilmember Wood, yes. Mayor Pro Tem Conrad Wood.
Yes, kudos, Jim.
Councilmember Joe Ritchie. Mayor.
Yes.
Mayor Harris.
Yes.
Sierra Dunn.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember, yes.
I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being such a good plan.
Yeah, say thanks to your team. Great job. Item number 5, presentation of the June 30, 2023 audit and annual comprehensive financial report. I will turn this over to Mr. Wood, chairman of our audit and budget committee.
Thank you, Louis. You know, this is year after year, it's getting a little bit boring. I hate to bring such great news to the community, but you know, somebody's got to do it. So once again, our auditors have given us a unmodified opinion that the city conforms with all the financial requirements that we need to. And this has gone on and on and on, and it just continues to impress me how well the city is run by Tim, by Shane, and the rest of the staff. We do a great job, and Tim is going to show some slides, and I can go ahead and show the good news.
We'll start out with Brooke Hilbert, and I'm going to go over the audit results, and I'll present some financials.
Thank you and good evening. So as mentioned, we're gonna just make some brief comments here about the audit for the year ended June 30, 2023. Just to give you a reminder, there are actually 5 separate documents that we issue as your auditors. One would be the comprehensive annual financial statement. We issue our report to mayor and council. We have a compliance audit related to your compliance with the federal grants funds that you receive, and then we issue a report on the municipal radio system. And finally, the water rate calculation. So we've covered all these documents in detail with management and the audit committee. So my goal tonight is just to hit some of the highlights that we have up here on the screen. Before I get started, I want to take just a moment and really thank Tim and Shane and your entire team for all their assistance throughout the audit. The audit process from start to finish does take a couple months, and they really are very accommodating to us and help us complete the audit in an efficient manner. So as your auditors, our main deliverable to you, as noted on the screen, there is our opinion on your financial statements. It's included in the large document, page 1 through 3. The city received what we refer to as an unmodified audit opinion again in the current year, which means the statements are in compliance with all the rules and regulations. The other thing that's not on the screen here, as I mentioned earlier, because the city received over $750,000 of federal grant funding in the current year, we performed an audit of your compliance with those grants. And more specifically, we audited your compliance with the American Rescue Plan audit, American Rescue Plan grant, and happy to report that we did not have any findings there. You had a clean opinion on that report, and you did comply with all of the requirements of the grant. In addition to that, we issue our report to Mayor and Council. If we had any audit findings or any internal control matters to discuss with you, they would be discussed in that report. But as we kind of note on the screen here, we had no significant audit findings or no internal control weaknesses. So again, just a real overall real clean audit. The city continues to be run very well, strong internal controls. And again, as Lev mentioned, a little bit of a boring report, but again, overall, really just an A+ rating on the overall financial compliance for the city. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim, who's going to go through some of the financial statement highlights.
Thanks, Phil. So in the general fund, we had $19.4 million in revenue and $18.4 million in expenditures, which brought our total fund balance increase of $973,000 to an ending fund balance of $6.6 million. That fund balance increase of $973,000, that includes non-spendable amounts, which is inventories, prepaids, and accounting entries of $129,000 increase. Increase in committed fund balances for parking and harbor of $25,000, and the increase in assigned is $115,000 donations towards the K-9 program. So our total unassigned fund balance is $5.2 million, which increased $641,000 to a total of 27.8% of our expenditure budget. So that's right within our range of 20 to 30%, and that's what you consider our rainy day fund, is funds for emergency purposes. This kind of gives you historically our fund balance levels for the last 3 years. You can see on the right side there, the unassigned fund balance is kind of up and down there a little bit, 26% down to 25, now back up to 27.8 this year. And that dip in the prior year was a planned use of fund balance, so it was something we planned to use that money. So where the general fund gets its money, primarily from property taxes. We have property taxes, $13 million in property taxes, or 74% of the budget. Then we have state sources, which is state revenue sharing. That's increased in the last couple of years due to the 2020 census. We had an increase in population, so that's just out there a little bit. I talked about federal grants, 1.1 million in federal grants. That was for ARPA, as well as the FEMA reimbursement from the big flood of 2 years ago. On the expenditure side, you can see the largest expenditure is public safety at 32%. And you have everything else kind of even there, with general government at 12%, public works 13%, parks and rec 9%. The other services at 17%, that is for amounts for pension, OPEB contributions, as well as insurance and general items. That category is going to go away next year. We allocated those out to the departments. You'll see that departments go up a little bit. We allocated those pension costs and insurance costs to the departments. And it transfers out, that's primarily transfers to capital projects. And in capital projects, we spent $6.4 million on capital improvements this year, which I think is really the heart of the budget. And what we want to be doing is making improvements to the city here. Public safety vehicles and equipment, they got 6 public safety vehicles because there was a timing delay with getting some of the vehicles from the prior year, as well as purchase of a drone and extraction equipment and turnout gear. Public safety building improvements, $86,000 was to redo the fire hall. Public works vehicles and improvements was for lighting improvements at DPW, security cameras, and 4 lawnmowers. Pier Park got a new roof at the gatehouse and concession stand, as well as the new playground and landscape improvements there. The seawall repairs are $750,000 through a state grant. City hall improvements was a new HVAC condenser. And then technology improvements, $162,000 was rewiring all the city buildings and new phone system. For road improvements, we did Fisher, Ridge, Cloverly, as well as starting this year's program at Percival prior to the year end. So it's a little more significant this year at just over $3 million. That was funded just under 1.8 million from the road millage. Then we had 400,000 from the general fund, 200,000 from capital, and 626,000 from Act 51 fund. So it's really, even though we have that millage, we're still contributing on some other sources towards roads. And then on sewer was the Fisher water main replacement of $1.1 million. In the water fund, our cash position increased by $317,000. We had a good year last year with water usage, up to about 54.5 million units sold. But in the current year, we had such a wet summer, our usage is down, it's trending to be down about 7% for this current fiscal year. So something we're kind of keeping an eye on is that water usage in the water fund. And that position increase of just over $1 million for the capitalization of the water main, combined with the increase in the cash position. Pension and OPEB, so we've done really well in our pension and OPEB. This gives you a 3-year comparison for 2023. Our general pensions at 86%, public safety 106%, and then really exciting news here down at the bottom at OPEB, general at 67%, and public safety at 80%. The state kind of wants to be at 40% or above for the healthcare, and 60% or above for the pension. And you can see we're kind of blowing those out of the water. We're really one of the few communities in the state that are funded at these levels. And that's really a testament to the city putting the money where it needs to go. And we got our audit award for the 30th consecutive year for our audit last year, as well as the 12th consecutive year for our popular annual financial report. So if there's any questions.
Super job as always. Thank you. Any questions from council, Mr. Representative Bill? Anybody in the public have questions of the audience? Public comments closed. I drive a motion to accept the audit of Plant Moran.
We'll make that motion.
Support, Mr. Mayor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again. Fantastic work. All right, item number 6, consideration of the site plan for pickleball courts at Pier Park, 350 Lakeshore Road. Mr. Galuli.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Over 2 years ago, the city modified one of the tennis courts at Pier Park to become pickleball courts. As many of you know, pickleball has been growing in popularity in huge numbers, quite frankly. It is the #1 participant increasing sport, not only in the United States, but in North America right now. The reservations for the pickleball court far exceed those of the tennis courts, including court 1. I am a tennis player down there at least once a week and notice the number of people playing pickleball and waiting to play when the courts are finished. Over the last couple of months, we have had a proposal to recondition the tennis courts and to add 2 pickleball courts. We've had a public meeting at the Pier Park. We've also had a Parks and Recreation Committee meeting. Mayor Pro Tem Conrad Wilberding and Councilperson Soroka have been very active, as is the city staff. Parks and Rec Director Chris Galitis is here. Following a recent Parks and Rec meeting, we agreed that it would be best to go with option AA for the installation is being shown now on the presentation here within City Hall. That is an overlay basically of where the existing courts are and where the new courts would be. We are very, very mindful of the loss of just a few square feet, so to speak, of green space. When you measure the amount of green space now from the existing tennis courts to the gazebo, I'll leave it to City Manager Reeside, but just a small amount of additional green space is going to be used up. However, we actually believe that the sight lines to the lake, as you make your way around the bend, and the movement of the walking path are going to be improved. The fence is going to be lowered, so to speak. We believe that our residents and their guests will continue to enjoy the nicest park facility in the Midwest, if not the United States. We're very mindful of the green space issue. We've heard a lot of comments about that. But with my report is done, I would turn it over to the city manager and if necessary to Parks and Rec Director Golitis to their additional comments and the timeframe and costs of the recommendation, please.
Thank you, Councilman. So we did have several meetings. We did have several alternative plans that we looked at and weighed, pros and cons of various plans. It was really the unanimous consensus at the last Parks and Harbor Committee to recommend this plan, which was ultimately the preferred plan at the public meeting with modifications. I think the public meeting was very helpful in that we made some alterations to the prior plan by eliminating a walkway between the courts, moving some things around. So we actually reduced the amount of impact at green space by more than half of what we originally had intended to use to roughly 15 feet out of the 850 feet area between the end of the tennis courts going east. The other thing, as Councilman Galili mentioned, is that existing walkway, we actually shifted it over again. That was a recommendation from the public meeting, and there's a real desire to use that space for picnicking because it's closer to the water. So we kind of increased that open area at the corner of the court facilities to allow additional picnic tables. The total impact on green space, again, we have minimalized. It's actually 15 feet extension of the existing courts. So 15 feet by 20, so you're adding, a relatively small amount, around 1,700 square feet of court space. But just in perspective, one of the volleyball courts, just two of them, is 4,500 square feet. So one of the recommendations also that came out of the Parks and Harbor Committee was the potential at some point of eliminating one of the two volleyball courts that sits in the picnic area, which which actually provide a significant net gain in picnic area. And it was this theme that those courts just aren't heavily utilized. Again, there's always changes in demand where we see a much greater demand for the pickleball courts than we're seeing kind of a waning of the use of the volleyball courts. So that's the recommendation. If council approves the site plan, our next step would be to put together bid specifications, go out to bid over winter with construction starting early part of the spring.
Chris, anything to add?
Shane covered it. Thank you.
Any questions from council?
I neglected, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, to thank the Grosse Pointe Farms Foundation for their commitment of about half of the project cost. The total project cost estimated $200,000. They've committed $100,000. We have a great foundation, a lot of ladies and gentlemen within our city really putting their resources, hard-earned resources to good use, and we're very fortunate, and our thanks should go out to all of them.
Great. Well said.
Mr. Barrett, in going through a number of different hearings with the Parks and Recreation Committee, and also going through a number of emails, there were some different controversies, but I think that what happened is that the facts were laid out. The cost analysis were laid out, the green space usage was laid out, and then with all these facts analysis, I mean, the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting that I chaired, which was in late summer, they were not for this at all. They wanted to do a number of different routes. Once they received the facts, once they understood what can be done and what cannot be done, and a cost analysis of it, and how different usages would be monitored, then many of the people that wanted to do some other different alternatives came around, and I have to say, probably including myself. So I congratulate as far as how we really went about doing a due process with this, how some different things were vetted, and how the facts were presented, including the public hearing, but also the Parks and Recreation.
Thank you.
Really excellent. Say exactly what Beth just said, is that the process that this entire thing went through was really well done. From the beginning of the concept to having the Parks and Harbor Committee really involved, to having public engagement, lots of emails back and forth. What really impressed me was the evening of our meeting with the residents, and many of those folks gave us positive feedback. I don't know how many were against it, but maybe there are a couple of people who were against it at that point, but
And
for the most
scientific.
part, for the most part, it was very well received, this plan. I think that, I think you guys have done a great job of you know, running this process, and I intend to go through this.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I just add to what Councilmember Conor Wilberding said was, not only did people learn the facts and learn information, but our city and administration, and they took the counsel of the people involved. It wasn't just a one-way street of like, learn the things we're gonna tell you, but it was also a real hearing. And I think that what ended up happening was, like Shane shared, we actually changed some of the plans as a result of the public engagement. And I think that's a really important part. I'll say, you know, I don't think I've in my 4 years on council been involved in a process that was as engaging in the public, certainly around what we've been doing in Pier Park as this one. Because in part, the call for public engagement came from the general public when they started hearing a word about this project and wanted to get involved. And so we made sure they had an opportunity, and we didn't just talk at our citizens, but actually really engaged in the process. So, and I think that's resulted in a plan that I think, like any plan, is going to be a bit of a compromise. Not everybody's going to get 100% of what they want. I received a call this afternoon from a woman who was earnestly concerned about what the loss of this space on the lake would mean to folks that are disabled or have limited ability to get up to it, in part because that Horton Field House is probably the closest bathroom to that prime picnic spot on the lake. But what I'd also say is, I think that, like I said, this process has ensured that we get the best option of the ones that are available, the one that's going to cost us the least, and also answer a real community need for increased pickleball space. And I'll just note that 15 feet out of, I think it was 850, means just a loss of about less than 2%, 1.76% of that lakefront. So it's a very minimal loss for a gain for a very big part of our community who wants to be involved in this sport. So I, number one, want to thank Shane and the executive team and Chris for their willingness to engage the public. I want to thank the public for being involved in it and responsive. I think all too often, we hear a lot of complaints and an unwillingness to actually sometimes step up and be a part of it. And I don't think that was the case this time around. And I think that's resulted in a plan that that I think we all can be proud of. So thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor, can I just add that what this process taught us, with Neil and with John, is that while the public hearing was helpful, it was the committee that solicited a lot of feedback from the community at large. It was the committee that had a number of different options and questions that probably were not presented before. And it gives rise to the importance of our committees and how our citizens should be able to participate and actively become part of our committees. Committee is an important process of how the city functions. Thank you.
So the one concern I had, and I did want to ask about the recommendations portion, if I know that in the report from Shane and Chris, it talks about the recommendation of the 1 or 2 underutilized volleyball courts. Would it be possible to actually put that in the actual resolution of the forward that we want to eliminate those things? In part to answer the response for people that want to ensure that they have more space.
I'm not sure notice has been given to the volleyball people, if we'll see it to the people. That's possible space, so I think.
Fair enough. Okay, all right, we'll do, well.
Let's not change the great process by making it better.
I'll just say, we talked a lot about that regularly, and so I want to make sure that we actually follow through on that, because that's been one thing that I think has tried to meet some of the needs of the folks that were concerned about the loss of space.
All right. Anything else on council? Anybody in the public have any questions or comments? Seeing none, public session, comments are closed. Do I have a motion to recommend the site plan for the pickleball courts at Deer Park?
I will make that motion. I recommend that the approval of the proposed site plan option AA and authorize completion of the bid documents for spring 2024 construction. The final bid award will be subject to city council approval.
Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you to the Parks and Recreation Administration, as everybody said, great process and very open. Now, item 7, consideration of school resource officer cooperative agreement. Mr. Reside or Director Hutchins, who wants to?
I can start out and we'll let the director chime in if he wants to add anything. But this is something really that has been in the works for some time. There was a desire from the school system to have a school resource officer at Grosse Pointe South High School. I think there was also a belief there is a belief by our public safety department and our city administration that a resource officer would be an asset for the school system and the city as a whole, to have literally one of our personnel at the school on a regular basis. The big issue is funding. How do we fund this? And it really was this past year that the school board has dedicated funds for the financing of this position. This would be a city employee that would be assigned at the school. And we have a draft agreement for council's consideration that would provide a school resource officer at Grosse Pointe South. The cost would be for 75% by the school system, 25% by the city. After this initial year, we recognize that there will be some costs this year for personnel, but those costs, as we transition, we have to hire a new employee, train an employee before we can send someone to the school system. So there will be some costs, and those costs would be incurred by the school system for this fiscal year. Any costs through June 30th, because it's not in our budget. But after July 1, we would then need to budget 45% of the cost for the remainder of the contract. We think there's an offset because that officer will be available to the city during non-school period, primarily the summertime, when we have higher use of vacation time, and we'll be able to fill that time slot and potentially save overtime.
Hutch, anything to add?
Yeah, just to add, we've chosen the candidate for SRO. We had interviews, I think it was 3 candidates. We included Musa Hamka, who came here and participated in the interviews, had a lot of questions for the candidates. In the end, we all unanimously agreed on who the candidate should be. It's a public safety officer, Jim LeBeau. He's already planning out some programs, and Cindy Pirovano, upon approval tonight, wants him to come pick out where his office is going to be, and so on and so forth. And then we've already also conducted interviews for the officer who will replace Jim, and so that person is also ready to go. So if council approves this tonight, we'll get moving on everything. The sooner we can get people training, the sooner we can get the officer inserted into the school. So it's pretty much it. The 3-year contract begins January 1st of 2024, and it's redeemable.
Thank you, sure, Beth.
Mr. Mayor, I see some great value in having this, and most likely vote for it, but I do have a couple of questions. First of all, does Grosse Pointe North have an officer of this nature?
Yes, we do.
And will the officer be housed in what part of the school? Does the officer have an office? Will it be freestanding?
Yeah, he'll have an office. They're going to let him pick from different locations. He'll have his own office. His weapons will be secured within the office. That's all going to be done upon approval. We're actually going to go over there and take a look at what the most advantageous positions might be. I think they would like him closer to the main office if possible, but we're going to kind of go through the school and see. We have the thanks to the Public Safety Commission, we have the repeater system installed in the school now, where we have full radio coverage throughout the campus, both buildings, and they've got a couple places in mind for him to pick from, but yeah, he'll have his own space, and he'll report to the school each day.
That's also in this agreement.
Sorry, go ahead, Beth. I'll let Beth finish and go back for a second.
Well, we could talk about a resource officer. I think it's important just for those people that have stuff that we have here. To understand what that resource actually is.
Yeah.
Is it surveillance? Is it monitoring? Is it vice? Is it health? What is it?
It's everything. Yeah, it's involvement with the student body, with the staff. He will handle the complaints. You know, right now, if we get a call over there for vaping or a fight, or if a child comes in and claims they're being abused at home, the officer handles all of those runs, takes the reports, works with the DB, the juvenile officer on the follow-ups. What it's going to do is it's going to familiarize everybody at the school with the officer. It's going to kind of bridge that gap between the department and the school. And he's going to be the person that they're going to go to. Now, if he needs backup or help, he can call for another officer, obviously, but he's going to be the primary on everything that occurs at the school. And they're also going to utilize him at sporting events, tailgate type stuff, anything and everything they need him to be at, he's going to be at. So.
If you indulge me, I have one more last question. If the student goes to the resource center and that student wants confidentiality, will the officer give the confidentiality?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did the committee approach cities of Park and Grosse Pointe City for a contribution to this?
Have we up to not, no.
But families from those two cities attend the South. Yet Grosse Pointe Farms is being asked in the next several years to pay 25% of its cost.
But they don't get access to the officer in that 25% of the year that he's not in the school.
Well, then that's my question, is
Right.
is there a good reason why we are the ones who are paying this and subsidizing the other cities? Sounds like there is, but Hutch, maybe you
Yeah.
can explain, you know, I mean, I think that, you know, if families are benefiting from this, who live in Park, maybe we could have them pay for it. Otherwise, maybe you can explain why.
Yeah, he continues to train with our people. He comes in when school's not in session. He's also available for overtime if we have a shift shortage. So we incur the benefit of the officer when school's not in session. That's essentially the answer. So part of June, all of July, all of August, and return in September, whenever they go back in September. We also would have access to him if need be on breaks, because if they're on their winter break, if they're on their spring break, we have access to him. He will be off when they are off, but we would have access to him if needed.
And
So that-
75% come from the school district. Obviously, it's money that all the Grosse Pointes are contributing to the school, so they are contributing.
Including us.
Oh, sorry, I got it, but that's-
Okay, the whole bit here.
Well,
Okay.
I would argue not.
We're paying our fair share of his time in the school.
Right.
And then outside the school, his time is on behalf of Grosse Pointe Farms. Exclusive. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
John.
I'm really dating myself. I was fortunate to have served as the Student Association President of South many moons ago and was appointed by the superintendent to serve on what was then the Youth Service Division Task Force, where we made a decision. We had two plainclothes officers at South every day. Their names were Trepa and DeSellis. They were from Grosse Pointe Woods. We all knew who they were. It was a great sense of security. I'm sure our former director recalls them. It was good to have them in the building. It was good to have them in areas where we weren't supposed to be at times. It was good that we knew who they were. And my question is, are they planning on formal sort of plainclothes, uniform, a combination of both?
Combination.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna have a meeting of the minds on that, whether it's gonna be a polo shirt or what have you, depending upon the season. They don't want the look of the road, you know, the guys and gals that are on the road. They want something not too casual, but not too paramilitary, which is fine. We can
I
work
think
with
it's
them.
great. I welcome it as the city attorney, if you don't mind me saying his comment. If we get a call to Grosse Pointe South, that's to our city. The units from Grosse Pointe City may hear it. We're the #1 priority for that institution. I think it's a great idea. I wholeheartedly support the inclusion of public safety in today's unfortunate times to Grosse Pointe South High School.
So I heard, and I'm glad to hear about the uniform. I think talking through that option is great. In terms of the weapon, it sounds like the weapon is gonna be secured in his room, or exactly walking around the school.
Well, he's gonna be armed.
Yeah.
He will have a patrol rifle locked up in the office, which Musa wants.
Okay.
Musa was adamant about that if they have a school shooter there, he needs to be armed adequately to address the situation. So it's all going to be set up properly, and Musa was emphatic about that. In fact, he was asking some of the candidates, "Do you plan on having a rifle in my school?" And the look on these guys' faces was like, and he goes, "You better," because that's part of the reason that you're there is safety and security. So it'll all be set up properly.
And the one question I have was, and forgive a little bit of ignorance about how the school and public safety work together now, but the one concern, and overall I'm very supportive of this for all the safety reasons you talk about, is the way in which school disciplinary actions could potentially be upgraded to legal issues. And how does that change when a school resource officer is in the school versus how you have to deal with it now? Of course, something like vaping, right, is against the law and ordinances in place, and so that would be brought into court. How does that change?
It doesn't really change it much. We have our diversion programs. We already get called there for vaping and fights and stuff like that, and we have to make a record of it. So if somebody hits somebody, or if somebody is doing something they're not supposed to be doing on school property, they have us make a record of it, and most of the time they follow through on it on their own end. So unless it's something serious, you know, if somebody assaults somebody and it's a felony, or if somebody assaults somebody and the other family wants to press charges, then by all means. But that comes after discussion. There aren't a lot of prosecutions that come out of the school.
Okay, and that would be something that you'd already have that if a felony happened in the school anyways, you would already be coming.
We would already be coming anyway. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hopefully we're going to get tips. You know, kids are going to talk to Jim and tell him what's going on so that maybe we can nip things in the bud or prevent things from happening. That's the whole idea from it.
No, I mean, I think there's a lot of benefit to there are some places where you have to be cautious, but there's a lot of opportunity to build relationships between public safety officers in the community that I think are really helpful.
Right. I spoke with Chief Kosanke today in Grosse Pointe Woods and asked him about how his program was going, because they started theirs this year. And he said it's been going great. Unfortunately, their SRO had to have shoulder surgery, so he's out for 4 months. And John had to talk with the acting superintendent at the time, and they've made an officer available as needed, but they don't have a backup who's in there full time right now. So he was very happy with the program up until the point where the officer had to have shoulder surgery.
Actually, that brings up my very last question, which is how do you deal with PTO? Obviously, this officer will get time off, and how are they off, and nobody's in the school at that point? Or?
Yeah, the officer will follow the calendar of the school. So if the school is on spring break, the officer is off. The officer can say, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to work that week at the station because maybe I'd like to take a week off in July. We're going to allow for a little bit of play there, but generally speaking, they're going to follow the calendar of the school. And so he's going to go back to 8 hours. Right now, the officers are on 12 hours and go back to 8 hours. He's going to be off on weekends. He's going to be off on holidays, but he's going to be working some evenings at sporting events and stuff. So there's going to be a give and take on the schedule. We're going to have to kind of feel our way through it.
Any other questions on council? Anybody in the public? Anybody in the public? One more shot. Anybody in the public? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. Give us your name and address.
Dan Jensen, 336 Kirby Road. I'm a former public safety director, former police officer for 44 years. And I just think this is incredibly awesome. I fought for this position for over 40 years. When I came on the job, we did have the 2 officers there. It's an incredible communication link that we take it out, you lose a major link. Kids don't want to call here because the phones are traced. They don't want to walk in here because everybody's on camera. Our communication chain drops dramatically when you don't have an officer in the building. We need an officer in the school system, whether he's there or not, office is closed, they slide notes under the door. You get all the information, or a lot of the information you would never get without an officer in the school. I have fought from that for 40 years, Bob Ferber and I think it's incredible that we have it now. And it's long overdue. We're far behind in some school systems with it. I think it's a great opportunity for us to increase that communication chain with the school system. I think that they've handled it incredibly well. I spoke on behalf of the Public Safety Foundation, which currently I'm the executive director of how important it becomes at the meetings, the school board meetings, 3 of them consecutively here in June, how important this is to have that officer in that building. And that was great to hear that they finally approved it. There were some strings attached, there were some gray areas that have been addressed. I think it's awesome that we've now been able to do it. It's incredibly important in this community to have it. For every survey that shows they're not good, I'll give you the surveys that show they're good. It's just what we need in this community. The communication chain is so important in this department. These guys, I think, are just doing a great job of maintaining that. They picked an excellent guy, Musa Hamker, the current principal, was part of the interview board. Incredible decision because he picked him as well. So I just think this is the only way to go, the best way to go. And I wish everybody the best of luck at it. It's really, really important for these kids and the teachers and the community. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
I misspoke on one thing earlier. When I said the 3-year agreement is redeemable, I meant it's renewable.
I got
It's not a coupon.
I got you.
Yeah.
Is that a coupon? All right, anybody else in the public? See no one else, public comment is closed. Do I have a motion to approve the school resource officer cooperative agreement attached as item 7 to our agenda? So moved. Do I have support?
Support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah.
Thank you. For your consideration is the city council regular meeting schedule. Does anybody have any requested changes as we see it today?
Well, I do. And I'm wondering how flexible we can all be. May and September are conflicts for me already. Lynn and I are gonna have a couple things planned way far in advance. So in particular for the May meeting, which is budgets and stuff, I'd really love to be able to make it. So I'm wondering if folks have got any problems as you look at your dates, to see if we can maybe make that for May 3rd or for May 6th instead of May 13th.
And budget approval on the-
I'd rather go the other way and make it the 20th.
Yeah.
I might be gone the 20th.
What are you talking about again for me?
Moving it to either the 6th or the 20th. The 6th is too soon. She's now, what, 30 days out from the April meeting? Is that what it has to be, or is it?
It'll just be a budget, the budget has to be approved in May, and that'd be just by the time we have all the numbers and be able to put together the budget, that's a little tight, it usually has to be later in May.
The 20th would be a better one.
But,
20th would be better.
All right, do the 20th, that's fine.
Thank you, everybody.
September?
And September, well, let's see, we're making this one, we're changing that one to May 20th, right?
Yep.
And then in September, let's see here. If we could do this.
Get the holiday.
That would be Labor Day. I prefer not to be here, but that's okay.
And then maybe the 16th. 16th would be,
I have no problem.
everybody.
Yep, sure.
Which one is on
September 16th.
Is that good?
Well, we don't have any of our personal calendars here.
Yeah, right.
You know, so we're giving you a bone.
We don't?
No, no, we
You
don't.
can't leave home without it.
Well, you did not.
We've gotten through meetings missing one person here or there, so I think we'll survive.
Well, so is it that we don't want to move the September meeting? Or we do?
We moved it already.
We moved it to the 16th.
Just put down the 16th.
All right, any other requested changes?
Can't make it, we can't make it.
Any other requested changes? Going once, going twice, all right, meeting scheduled set. All right, item 9, consent agenda. Does anybody want either of the items removed from the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Support. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. You have a report in front of you from November 2023 from Public Safety. Item 11. Mr. Reeside, any other business?
I have no other business.
Anybody on council have other business?
Yes, I have some other business.
You're changing the date of September
dates.
I'm still trying to work on things.
You want to change your Christmas party?
I would like to, just briefly address the terrible car accident that occurred on Ridge Road. I know because I saw the tubes that are out there, which tells me that we did a traffic study with speed. I'm wondering if, Shane or if John could address, where we are now, what we're gonna do, what's our engineer, planning on doing, what's the deliverable that we're gonna get, et cetera.
So after the accident, shortly after the accident, we reached out to the Transportation Improvement Association, TIA, who we've used in the past for studies, more notably Country Club Speeding, Ross and Lakeshore, and most recently Grosse Pointe Boulevard and ran at the request of Academy parents who are concerned about kids crossing Grosse Pointe Boulevard. So we reached out to TIA about Ridge Road. Given that we've had a couple of fatal accidents there in the last 30 years. And I asked them to check on everything from average speeds to traffic volume, potential for stop signs, or traffic signal, pedestrian crossing volumes, and everything in between. So we, just a few days ago, got a 54-page report back. The plan is to carefully review it and then present our findings and follow up accordingly by the beginning of the year. So that's where we're at. In terms of the driver, he's still recovering. We're still waiting on labs that were taken. That could take months. And so that's kind of in a holding pattern right now. So
same with the Michigan State Police report.
Yep. So we have the study. We just need to go through it and see what they've said. It's very comprehensive.
Studies are great. They take time. We all know people live on Ridge Road. We gotta do something fast, even if it's temporary stop signs at the 2 locations they talk about. Moran and what's the other street? Ridge. No, Ridge and Moran and the other street.
Yeah, but we gotta be careful, Joe.
Yes.
Let's let.
Yeah, you can't
process
just
take
throw
its
up
course. You can't just throw up signs.
Yeah.
Because the group did the Boulevard and Moran, which is about 4 blocks from the stoplight at St. Paul. So there are reasons why you don't have a stop sign every 4 blocks, so maybe it's 3 blocks. So let them do their job. Let Hutch come back to the safety committee, see what recommendations they come up with. It's an absolute tragedy, 1000%, and a lot of kudos to your team, everybody involved from the multiple jurisdictions to handle that. Yeah, I know the family and know the mom forever, so it's a horrific incident, so.
We're also taking our own speed measurements as well. We have a box up that's taking our own speed measurements on ridges as well to supplement their findings. So I can tell you the daily average speed is not high. It's not. It ranges between 27 and 31 in a 25. So the daily average speeds are not crazy. So that's I can tell you that much so far. But the rest we'll report back on.
Put up signs, don't put up signs, let's do what's right.
Yeah.
And Ridge Road is along my daily dog walk, and I rarely see. I mean, it seems to me, it just seems that people are driving the speed limit, unlike other streets.
Yeah.
I had a car that was destroyed because they whipped around the corner at Chalfont and Kirby.
Right.
And totaled my car. They hit it, and it flew way across the front yard into the bushes. And it's a daily occurrence for me to try to back out and almost get hit. When I have the right of way, I'm in the street. People don't care. They just.
Or they're not watching. Yeah.
Yes. So I agree, Mr. Mayor. You gotta wait. Yeah.
The only other business I have is I want to thank the administration, all of our employees, top to bottom, for a great year. 2023 was a great year for the city. We accomplished a lot. I appreciate all the hard work that this council does on their various committees and the administration and all the employees that work for us in each department. I want everybody to have a great holiday season. Keep everybody in mind in your prayers, especially what's happening in our community. And, you know, let's make the best of it, and we'll, thank you again, and let's make 2024 even better. So, thank you. Anybody in the public have any other business today? See no other hands. Oh, he does. Oh, I thought he was just joking. Yeah, yeah.
Speed drill.
Yeah. I think you're too close to your neighbor's fence with that.
Joe's on Ridge Road, tragic. 30 years ago, this New Year's Eve, we had another tragedy there. Almost exactly the same area, the same circumstances, the same tragedy. We cannot, as law enforcement officers, prevent speeding on the streets. We can slow it down by putting trailers there and putting traffic enforcement there. But when an individual, a young, inexperienced individual driver decides he wants to go 85 to 100 miles an hour down a side street, it has a little bit of a hill there, there's consequences, and it's tragic. And that's what happened again here. If there was a problem on Ridge Road, I would think that there'd be more than 2 over 30 years. And there's a little dip in that road. If you go 50 in a 25 over that road, you don't feel the dip. But when you go 85 to 100 miles an hour, you're gonna feel the dip, and that's what happened, and it's tragic. I know the mothers of both drivers involved there, and it's a tragedy. But there's some things in life we can't control by studies and by stop. You can't put a stop sign up. John will tell you that. You can't put a stop sign or 4-way stop signs up because you want one there. They have to comply with the Michigan Manual of Traffic Control Devices. So that's a really, really bumpy road there, no pun intended, where you can't just throw traffic control devices up where you want. A few years back, Grosse Pointe Woods had 40 something, maybe more than that, John, stop signs that were deemed illegal. They were put up illegal without traffic safety studies. They didn't meet the requirements for traffic, for stop signs. They had to take them all down.
I still stop at Moreland and Morningside.
Yeah,
Growing up.
they put them all up but one. They took them all down, only one went back up, and that was by Ferry School. So it's a tragedy, but sometimes we can't stop immature young drivers that think they're invincible from going down Lockmore, from going down there, Chalfont, Kirby Road, on the Kirby Freeway. It just happens when you do our best to try to control that. But unfortunately, accidents happen, and that's why we're here. That's why they're here now. So I just like to comment on that. So I'm with you, Joe. It's really a tough thing to do. It's just terrible, tragic. So, but thank you, Merry Christmas.
Anybody else in the public? All right, with that, meeting adjourned.